Welcome, my friends, and welcome to all new subscribers. Today's topic is signs and symbols. What do we see that comes into our view and comes into our life that we see as a sign or as a symbol? And what kind of significance do we place on it?
Clearly, there was a mechanical issue with the plane.
Clearly.
Yeah, but what you and I know, this was an act of God.
My name is Paul, and this is Path of Ascension. So first, let me just throw out a little trigger warning. I'm going to cover some topics here and some issues, and I may put in some clips that have the potential to offend, but bear with me because everything that I do on these videos is just trying to make a point. One thing I want to say is, when you're newly awakened, it's very common to see signs in everything. And the reason why you see it then is because you've just sort of woke up and you just see like, oh my God, there's all this stuff and it's pointing to something. And because we have been so long asleep, we assume that those signs are pointing specifically to us, for us, meant for us, and only us. And this is sort of early encouragement to grow further. And when you do grow further, you recognize that, well, these are sort of universal signs. And they're pointing to a lot of things. Certainly, they're going to point to you specifically, but remember, you're the person who does the interpretation of those signs.
Does anybody think we can't do this? No! This is a blessing in disguise. I say the power going out is the best thing that ever happened to us. I say the power going out is what is going to save this son of a bitch!
Sometimes it's just that the power went out. So you can see there's some inherent problems with seeing signs and interpreting signs. One sort of rule of thumb is if you are out looking for signs, you're going to find pretty much anything. I saw on this spiritual website, somebody had posted that, hey, I saw a blue bird, what does that mean? And somebody sort of sarcastically responded, well, that means that bluebirds are common to your area and you saw one. And then, it wasn't the kindest response, but I kind of understand the sentiment there, because if you are looking at everything as a sign to you personally, that means that you're expecting the eternal once again to deliver something to you. If you see signs and you see signs and they speak to you internally or they speak to you intuitively, that's a little bit different story. Your subconscious knows some of the things that you need to grow spiritually, and it knows some of its own hang-ups. And sometimes you're going to see a sign, and the more you awaken, the more you're open to the fact that there are things you need to deal with and things you need to fix. And those signs come to you, and they make some sense in your heart rather than in your head.
Now, please be on your way. I have a lot to unpack.
Emotionally or physically, because I can help with both.
Goodbye, Russell.
So I guess my point is not to ignore signs. I mean, I think you need to be open to them. But remember that when you're looking for things and you're expecting the external to change you in some way, that's not going to happen. It doesn't matter how many signs bonk you on the head. I think you have to remain open to signs and symbols and, review them with your intuition.
I know we were on sketchy ground ethically and linguistically, but
Whatever you're gonna say, save it for another 10 seconds.
What happens in 10 seconds?
Just hang on for another 5 seconds and know that we've all been there at one point or another.
What happens in 5 seconds?
What in the name of holy fuck were you thinking about?
Okay, to be honest, that's premonition, not intuition, but it was a funny clip, so I threw it in anyway. And one last point here I think that pertains to this is, we as, living in form, on the earth and experiencing forms, this is our awareness. Our job is to be aware of these things and experience these things and not get attached to the actual forms themselves. So the quieter you get, the more, when signs come up, the more sense they make to your actual spirit, rather than to try to sort stuff out in your head. I mean, we are really big on labeling things. You can take, say, a tree, and you're going to call it a tree, and then you chop it into a log, and now you're going to call it a log. And then if you chop it further, maybe it's a block, and now you've called it a block. And then you get a little tiny piece in your finger and you call that a splinter. Well, it's still a tree. You've just named and labeled everything to fit in these little boxes. So a more appropriate way to deal with signs and symbols is not to get hung up in your mind on what they physically represent, but to be quiet in your space, experience, and take these things in and apply them to what they really mean to you spiritually. I think it's a lot safer way to interpret when you're interpreting from a quiet space rather than trying to put little boxes on everything in your mind. Hey guys, I know this is a big topic and there's a lot to cover here. That's all I'm going to say for now, but if you have some opinions, comments, or insights, please leave them in the comment box below. I'll respond to every one of them. And if you'd like to see more detail on this topic or any other topics, let me know. Also, I know some of you know I've been working on some new music lately. I've got some things on Spotify. I'm going to leave a link down there. If you so choose, give it a listen. Maybe put it in a playlist of yours. I'll be releasing some new things this month as well. Hey, thanks again for watching. Have a great day and an awesome now.